The 6-year-old Syrian civil war has created the largest exodus of refugees since World War II. So maybe it shouldn't be a surprise that some of the loudest voices speaking about the need to help the Syrians belong to Holocaust survivors. The University of Miami recently hosted an event sponsored by the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum, where the idea of fleeing atrocities, old and new, was discussed.
What were your memories of the war and the immediate aftermath?
Well, I was hidden with the Madna family, a Dutch-Indonesian family, one Caucasian child in a family that looked very, very different.
Al Munzer's parents faced a horrific decision. With the Nazis rounding up Jews in occupied Holland, they saved their young son's life by hiding him at the home of a family friend.
I've asked Papa Madna, that's what I called him for the rest of his life, why he took the risk, why he risked really the lives of his family to take in a Jewish baby. His response was a very simple one. What was I to do? To him, really, there was no choice. There was a human need, and he was going to answer it.
To Dr. Munzer, there is another human need now, and he's answering it. Speaking out as part of an effort by the U.S. Holocaust Memorial and Museum to raise awareness about the mass killings taking place right now in Syria.
For me, what's always hard to process, even 6 years into this conflict, is what's unfolding in Syria on a daily basis. The amount of horror that is being perpetrated upon these people is unbelievable to me.
Moaz Mustafa is a Syrian immigrant whose family and friends back home are under siege by the dictatorship of Bashar al-Assad, with help from the Russian military. More than 400,000 Syrians have been killed, 11 million forced from their homes.
You were a child of war. When you hear these stories about the children of Syria, it must move you very deeply.
Absolutely. You know, it really, I think the greatest tragedy of the Holocaust wasn't just the loss of 6 million Jewish lives of my own sisters, my father, many other family members, but was that the lessons of the Holocaust weren't learned, that there have been many genocides since then. I think that's the real tragedy. The world said never again, but instead of that, again and again, we see these atrocities against innocent people. That, I think, is really the sad part.
There are Jews in Syria, but not many, and the country has never officially recognized the state of Israel. But the mass killings in Syria have generated empathy from many in the Jewish community.
But for me to know that people like Al, that the institution of the Holocaust Museum are standing up for people that are defenseless and that have been really sort of deserted by the international community is really the most inspiring thing, and something that is incredibly powerful that the Syrian people will never forget.
There must be a better way, that we must set aside hatred, prejudice, which can lead ultimately to murder. That's the lesson of the Holocaust.
Mr. Mustafa told me that he is not angry over President Trump's controversial travel ban, which specifically blocks Syrian refugees. He said he's hopeful the president will follow through on his campaign promise of creating Syrian safe zones so that his family and friends can stay in their country, which is what he says they really want.